Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, I basically wanted to talk about how narcissistic abuse is more than likely, or for most of us, is a traumatic experience. Okay, and I want to explain what I mean by that. But before I get into that, if you're interested in hearing any other videos on narcissistic abuse, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that it'll notify you when I upload any more videos, which is actually quite frequently. All right, so let's talk about this. The reason why I want to emphasize on why narcissistic abuse is typically a traumatic experience for the survivor is because I want to use that information to give you something else to think about in the healing process. Because sometimes I think that we have unrealistic expectations of what healing from narcissistic abuse would look like and how we should be behaving, how we should be feeling. So let's talk about that. You know, a lot of times, especially as time goes on from a situation, outsiders might say, well, why don't you just get over that? Or you're still, what's the big deal? Like, people don't understand when they haven't gone through things. But this wasn't a simple breakup, or this wasn't a simple dealing with someone. This narcissist comes into our lives, and even in a very short amount of time, because during my worst stunt with a narcissist, it was a very brief amount of time that narcissist was in my life. But in that little bit of time, they did so much damage to my life, and I was left to pick up the pieces. And I'm sure that a lot of you can relate to this. They come in, they do all of this stuff, and then we're left picking up the pieces. This is extremely traumatic. They've done things usually on the highest levels of disrespect. The highest levels of disrespect. And these things are traumatic because they've hit us at the core. They've hit us at the core. It's like, how could someone be so low down? How could someone be so nasty? They've been a con artist. This is traumatic to a person. And then let alone if you married that narcissist, if you procreated with that narcissist, if you've done any big life purchases with that narcissist, or if you were living with that narcissist, if that narcissist sexually assaulted you or raped you, if that narcissist beat on you, the verbal abuse, the emotional and psychological abuse, the smear campaign and the cheating, sometimes STDs, and God forbid if they gave you something that wasn't even curable, bruises that could be left on you, like physical bruises that you could see that may always be a part of you. If they wiped out your savings, pushed your credit into the dumps, these are things that affect a person's standard of living. You don't just get over these things in 1 second. And honestly, I'm going to say this, and this is real. You may never completely get over this. What you may do in time is find more healing. You can increase your healing to a point where you can be at a healthy level. But you may never get over it. Just like you're grieving, basically. You're grieving. Just like when someone has passed away that we cared about, you're going through a severe grieving process when you're healing from narcissistic abuse. A severe grieving process. That's why a lot of us end up with PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, or panic attacks, or high levels of anxiety, depression. That's why these things are following these relationships, are developing throughout the relationship, and definitely at the height when you're trying to heal. In the thick of it, you're going to be feeling these things because you went through a traumatic experience. Traumatic experiences are engraved in our subconscious. You ain't going to just forget about that. You're never going to forget about it. all you can do is find as much healing as you can with what has happened, which is, accepting what has happened and understanding that you can't change the past and deciding to move on with your life and not continue to relive and look back. But it's not realistic to think that you're never going to have at least a moment where you're going to remember what happened to you, and it might bring you down, but you don't have to stay there. But just because you have these moments doesn't mean you haven't healed, because you're going to have those moments. You could 5 years, 10 years, 15 years later, you might have a moment and you cry about it. Or you might have a sensitive day where you may not want to get out of bed. It doesn't mean that you haven't healed enough from it. It just means that you're human. Trauma is different from getting over things much smaller than a trauma. Getting over, oh, you didn't put the mayonnaise somewhere, or, oh, someone told a little white lie to you, is way different than, the type of things that we have to get over after dealing with narcissistic abuse. So we can't expect ourselves to heal in the same manner from those light work, basically, or those light things that can happen to us as these heavy things. And this is something that I actually talk to a lot with survivors of sexual assault. When they think that one day that the picture of healing to them is, oh, I never think about it anymore. Or it doesn't hurt me anymore. No, it is going to you're going to feel something and you are going to think about it at times. But with more healing, perhaps you'll think about it less. Or when you think about it, it will be less and less devastating with more and more healing, basically. And the same thing goes for narcissistic abuse. But for any of you out there that have these days, moments, hours, where you feel that shift in your energy and you think about what's happened to you and your mind is processing it again and it brings you down and you come to the conclusion, oh, I haven't healed. I haven't really gotten over it. That may not be quite the case there. Yes, you may need some more healing with it, but even in the best circumstances, you're still going to think about it, and it's never going to be okay. As far as you're never going to think, oh, that was good that it happened. No, it's always going to bother you some. It's always going to bother you some, and that's realistic. That is realistic. And anyone that's telling you, oh, just get over it, they don't understand trauma. They don't understand it. Now, there is a difference between wallowing in it and just recalling it, or it coming to the forefront of your mind, and you need to pick yourself up out of that space. Because when it happens to me, I am very aware of myself and conscious of myself. So when I feel that happening, I'm like, okay, I go ahead and acknowledge the feeling. I don't ignore it. And I allow myself to feel what I'm feeling. And then I'll think, okay, how can I make myself feel better? How can I lift up my spirit? And I go ahead and do that. And I give myself all the self-love that I need without judging myself. And I'm very patient with that. And that might look different for anyone. Whatever it might make me, I might say, oh, you know what? I'm going to go get a pedicure. It always relaxes me to get a pedicure. It soothes me, so I'll do that. I believe in a God, so I'll turn on YouTube and I'll find videos that have uplifting messages and I will listen to them. And I'll listen to it while I'm getting my pedicure. And it makes me feel better. It might bring me down a little more actually at first and I'll start crying, but I'm releasing the emotions actually so that I can then be lifted up. So when you get into those places, go ahead and accept it and acknowledge your feeling, and it's okay. It's okay. It's way better than pushing it down and bottling it up, because then you give up your control of releasing it. And I'll talk about that in another video, because I've experienced panic attacks and I can get further into that. But this is over a 10-minute video, which is one of my longer videos. But, this is important. It's important for me to say this to survivors out here, because sometimes we have unrealistic expectations of what the healing process actually looks like and what forgiveness is too. I'm going to have to make a video on that as well, but I won't do it here because we need another 10 minutes to talk about that. But, I hope this video helps someone. Just be gentle with yourself more than ever, and for the rest of your life. Always be gentle and patient with yourself, and practice all the self-love. And acknowledge your feelings. It's okay. You have a right, after you've gone through all of that, you have a right to acknowledge your feelings. And you're going to feel some kind of way about this every now and then. That is normal. That is normal. Allow yourself to feel it, and then do what you can to lift yourself up out of that space. Okay? Release it and lift up out of that space. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit like. If you want to hear additional videos on my channel, please subscribe and hit the bell. It'll notify you. Share my videos. A lot of people need to hear this stuff. It's coming from someone that's been there and done that. Okay? So I hope you guys are all having a great day. And until next time, as always, please take care.